بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين 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 السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to day 3. As some of you may have noticed, the chat description in the WhatsApp group was actually updated to include some review videos. So one of the things that myself and Ustad Uzair had worked on was a project to review every single chapter of the textbook, but in about 10 minutes or less. So if you're ever feeling like you need to brush up on a concept, feel free to just go to the chat description in the WhatsApp group and you'll find a link that says review videos. And you can go there and you can find a lot of these concepts at the very fundamental level. There are certain things in this course that are not covered in those videos, but there's a lot of foundational stuff that's there that's super helpful. So like, what are the 3 types of words? What are the 2 types of sentences? What is definiteness and the different cases of it? So if you ever want a quick brush up and you don't want to go through these recordings or go through the notes, that resource is there and available and it's public. You're welcome to share that with other people as well if you'd like. Okay. All right. So let's delve into today's lesson. Always got my recording message there. So as we've been covering up until this point, one of the main things that we started off with doing was talking about the 3 types of words. And we said in Arabic, unlike in English, there's only 3 types. So you have a fi'l, you have a harf, and you have an ism. Now a fi'l works as a verb, which is essentially an action word, such as to help, to create, or to witness, which we can see here. Nasara means he helped, khalaqa means he created, and shahida means he witnessed. Right? As for a harf, we said that's a little bit of a strange word. In English, it's usually translated as a particle, but not many people know what it is. So we have a little bit of a description here, which is that in essence, it's an impactor word. It's going to be a small word that has an impact on a word that comes after it. And for example, we have words such as fi, we have words such as ada, and we have wa, which means and. The 3rd type was the ism, which we said is, some people translate it as a noun, but in reality, it's more of like a super noun. It's going to be encompassing of anything that is not a fi'l or a harf. So that means adjective, adverb, person, place, thing, and so forth. And some examples of that would be things such as bahrun, which means ocean, right? Like the famous tafsir book, Bahr al-Madid, which means like, the expansive ocean. And then, such as a name like Jibreel. Can anyone tell me here? So this is a masculine name. Why does it only have a single dhamma? How come it's not Jibreelun? Anyone remember? Sound off in the chat. Yeah, okay, good stuff. Good stuff, guys. Okay, cool. Yep. So the reason why Jibreel is not Jibreelun is because it's a non-Arab name, right? It's been Arabized into the Arabic language. And the only names that are going to take a double ending or a tanween on the end are fully pure masculine Arab names. So like Muhammad, Zayd, Alim, right? Those types of names will have that association. 3rd one here is ta'am, ta'amun, which is food, right? So as for the 2 types of sentences, which is the most fundamental thing that we've covered so far, right? The reason why we covered words was so that we could start to deal with sentences, and now we're exploring that even further. But the 2 types are the jumla ismiya and the jumla fi'liya. When it comes to the jumla ismiya, which means nominal sentence, that is something like al-baytu jamilun, which means the house is beautiful, right? And it's made up of 2 parts. We have our mubtada, which means subject. So the focus of the entire sentence, the thing that we're actually talking about, right? And then the second is our predicate, meaning the khabar. So some form of information regarding that subject. And between the subject and the predicate in English, we're going to always drop an is or an are, right? But in Arabic, there are signs to identify the 2. And when it comes to the mubtada or the subject, the way that we tell is that it has a dhamma ending, which we said, guys, we identified that yesterday, that means that it's in a state of rafa, right? So when you see a dhamma ending on the end of an ism, that means it's in a state of rafa. And we talked about these 3 states and how the states are going to tell you the entire story of a word, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross this out now, because we can move beyond that perception, right? So really what's required for the subject is that it's rafa and it's definite. And remember before we used to say definite was known with alif lam, but we've expanded our understanding of that. We can tell when a word is definite, meaning it's specific. We know what you're talking about, right? There's no generality there in two instances that we've covered so far. And that's that it has an alif lam prefix to it, like al-baytu, which we see here, and that it's also a proper name, right? So when it comes to the predicate or khabar, again, it's seen with a dhamma ending. We're going to cross that out. We'll say that it's in a state of rafa, and it is indefinite, which means that it will hold a tanween ending, right? So I'm going to cross out this double ending stuff now and just refer to it as tanween. As for the verbal sentence, the jumla fi'liya, right? We identified that this is a jumla fi'liya because it begins with a fi'il, a verb. So our classic example that we'll go back to time and time again in this course is خَلَقَ اللَّهُ آدَمَ. So when you see that verb in the beginning, you have to ask yourself two questions. Who is my doer, the one executing this, and who is my receiver, the one receiving the action itself, right? And the way that we identify that is that the doer is going to come after the verb and it will have a dhamma ending. But we don't say that anymore, right? We will rather say that it is rafa. So I'm going to cross that out. Don't need to say that. Just saying it's rafa indicates to that as well. And then when it comes to the receiver, which in this instance is Adam. So who did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create? It's Adam, right? It will have a fatha ending, which will make it nasb. And again, we're going to just cross out that fatha ending now and just call it nasb. Cool. So I'm going to delete that. So let's actually hop into reviewing what we covered, or actually, let's do some practice first. So I'm going to get you guys to help me out with this. So I'm going to put a series of sentences forward, and I want you guys just to help me identify what type of sentence that is. Oh, sorry. Do you guys still need this? Just give you a second. Okay, cool. So looking at this sentence, I'm not even going to tell you guys the translation. Okay. Al-ardu saghiratun. Is this a jumla ismiya, a nominal sentence, or a jumla fi'liya, verbal sentence? Okay, yeah, good stuff. Okay, awesome. Right. Good stuff. So if I told you that this word means land and this word means small, how would you then translate this, knowing that it's a jumla ismiya? Okay, yeah, cool. Land is small. Good stuff. Throw a period after it because that means it's a sentence. Right. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Alima Muhammadul darsa. So is this jumla fi'liya or jumla ismiya? Nominal or verbal? Yeah, someone's asking, why would this not be the world is small? So al-ard is also used to refer to the world, but it can also be used to refer to land. So it depends on your context. I just selected land in this case. Okay, awesome. Jumla fi'liya. So alima means to know. Muhammad is the name Muhammad, and then dars is lesson. How would you guys translate this? Right. So Muhammad knew the lesson, right? We wouldn't say no, because if I said Muhammad knows the lesson, that's in the present tense. And this verb is a past tense verb, right? It's the only verb we're dealing with right now. Okay, cool. Let's try another. جعل الله آدم خليفة. Nominal or verbal? Yeah, okay. It is going to be verbal. And the way that I tell that it's verbal again is that we have a verb coming in the beginning, which is ja'ala, right? So good stuff. Now, ja'ala means made. And Allah is, of course, Allah. Then we have Adam. And then we have Khalifa. How would you guys translate that? This one might be a little bit more challenging. Just take a second to think about it. Yeah, okay, good stuff, guys. So Allah made Adam a, Khalifa. I'm just going to leave that as the Arabic terminology there, and not translate the word as vicegerent or anything. Now, what's interesting is that in this case, we actually have two maf'uls, right? It's not just a single one, meaning that after a verb, if you see a word that has a fatha afterwards, even if there's two of them, it is completely fine to consider them both maf'uls. Now, when I say khalifa, that's not necessarily a receiver, right? So Allah made Adam, right? So who? And then what did he make him? He made him a khalifa. What we're learning here is that when it comes to the maf'ul, right, this thing that comes after the verb that bears a fatha or is in a state of nasb, when we see that, it doesn't always necessarily have to be the one receiving the action per se, right? It could be like a detail, it could be like a time, it could be a location. And we're going to study these in a little bit more detail, the different types of maf'ul. But I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek at that. Not to throw you off or anything, but just a heads up. Okay. التاجر ذكي. اسمية or فعلية? Yeah, so somebody asked, what essentially makes this first sentence or stops this first sentence from meaning the small land? If I said the small land, it would no longer be a complete sentence. You need to have is embedded between the mubtada and the khabar. By doing that, now you've completed a full sentence, right? So if you just say the small land, that's just describing something. Okay. Yeah, cool. You guys got it. It's Mia. Now, tajir means merchant or trader, and dhaki means intelligent. So how would you guys translate that? Okay, good stuff. Merchant is intelligent. All right, last one. All right. سلم خديجة على جبري. Change that. جبري لا. Is this going to be verbal or is it going to be nominal? Verbal. Okay, cool. Good stuff, right? And the way that we can tell that is through this verb that's coming in the beginning. So sallama, right? Sallama. Now, in this instance, when it comes to sallama, if you notice, it looks a little bit different than all the other verbs that we've seen before, like alima, ja'ala. Usually they're just like 3 letters. But in this instance, there's a shadda that could be seen on it. And what that does is that it changes it to a different meaning, right? So I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek into something, which is, second, we're going to be starting this soon, like moving ahead. But this is the dictionary, right? This is the dictionary. You can access it on your phone, which inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to need you guys to set up soon. Well, I'll let you know when we need that set up by. You can also access on your computer. You just Google Handswear Dictionary, and it will bring up this dictionary where you can then click here and you type in whatever you need to find, and it will bring you to it. So I just typed in Sin Lam Mim. Now, since it has that shadda on it, right? That shadda that's present on it, I have to go to the to symbol, right? Whenever you see the shadda on it in the middle letter, you go to the to symbol. Then it will give you a whole list of meanings that are here. And you find the one that applies in your scenario, right? And what we find is that there's a usage of ala in our sentence, right? It's sallama khadijatu ala jibrila. Since there's ala there, we will use the meaning of to greet, right? If this overwhelms you right now, don't worry, we're not doing this. I just wanted to give you a sneak peek as to what we'll be covering in the course moving on. We're going to arm you with the tools to use the dictionary because, you know, you don't want to have to memorize like 50,000 words, right? That will come with time. Okay. Right. So the translation of this would be Khadija greeted Jibreel, right? Should actually be Jibreel based on the hadith. Jibreel greeted Khadija. There we go. Yeah. And yes, Ahmed, that is correct. It would have the ta on the end if we did put it that way, but I fixed that up. Okay, so let's continue on. So after we covered the 3 types of words and we covered the 2 types of sentences, we delved into the 4 properties of an ism. And we said there were 4 properties, right? So there's definiteness, there's number, there's gender, and there's status. And so far, we've only covered definiteness and status. So when it comes to definiteness, you guys help me out here. What are the 2 types? A word can be in terms of definiteness. Actually, let me be a little bit more clear there. What I mean. So when it comes to the property of definiteness, it can either be indefinite, or definite, right? And you guys tell me, is indefinite something that's specific or non-specific? Okay, good stuff. Yeah, it's non-specific. And what's the giveaway sign for it? Yep, yep, yep. If someone's asking, why did we swap the order for Khadija and Jibreel? I did that because we're just following the hadith, right? So it should be Jibreel greeted Khadija. That was why. That was the only reason. Okay, cool. You guys said tanween. So it will have a tanween ending, which means it will have a double ending. And what's the exception to this, right? When is there a case that I'm going to see a tanween ending on something, but it's not indefinite? And you remember? Yeah, okay, cool. So it's not just simply a name. Remember, it's not just simply a name. It's a pure Arab name, pure Arab name, right? That will be your giveaway. Okay, what are the 2 instances when an ism that we've learned so far, when an ism will be definite? Yeah, okay, you guys are all getting the first one, which is that it has an al. What's the second? Okay, cool. Yeah, and it's a proper name, right? Because when you're referring to someone by their name, we know who you're talking about, right? If I said Muhammad or Asad, right, or Khadija, there would be no doubt in that, right? So it's definite by nature. Okay, cool. So let's hop on to the second one, which is the second property that we covered yesterday, which is status. And again, status is essentially what the purpose of the word is in a sentence. And how we determine that is based on the ending of the word. So you guys help me out here. So the first is rafa. How do I know an ism is rafa? What ending must it bear? Okay, good stuff. It has to bear a dhamma. So if I had a word here like kitabun, then we know this word is in a state of rafa. And the giveaway is the fact that it has the dhamma endings. Okay. Then we have nasb. What endings required here, guys? Okay, awesome. So we have something like kitab ben, and then of course by you know, elimination, we're left with kita bin, a kasra, or the jar state. Okay, now can you guys help me out? What are the 3 scenarios that we've studied so far where you're going to see rafa? Okay, 3 scenarios. Okay, cool. So we have our first one, which is the beginning of the nominal sentence, which is the subject, going to be our mubtada, right? Then we have our predicate, which is what's being said about the mubtada, right? Known as khabar in Arabic. And then we have our fa'il, our doer, which is known as fa'il in Arabic, right? The doer of the verb itself. Okay, what about nasb? What's the one scenario that we've seen so far for an ism that's in a state of nasb? Yeah, good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Nice. Okay, so we'll be our receiver, or maf'ul in Arabic. And again, as we said before, it's not just limited to this concept of a receiver. It can be a little bit more broad than that. And we're going to study that in general soon, inshallah ta'ala. And then for the jar, we haven't really seen this much, but it's a preposition, right? Which is a type of harf that comes in, a small impactor word, and it forces that which comes after it into a state of jar. We actually saw this in action right here. This is ala, and it's forcing this word here, Khadija, into a state of jar, right? We're going to study that in more detail next week, inshallah. Just giving you guys a heads up. Okay, cool. So let's do some practice here. Rafiq, I will answer that question next week, inshallah, when we cover that. Okay, cool. Oh, good response there, Haris. Okay, so we have this word here, najm. What can you guys tell me about its definiteness as well as its status, right? So like if it's definite, just type D. If it's indefinite, type ID. If it's rafa, nasab, or jar, just type R, N, or J, right? Okay, yeah, good stuff. So it's going to be D and J, right? So it's definite, and I can tell that because of the alif lam, right? The alif lam deletes the tanween, so that's gone. Can't coexist in the same word, right? And then it's also in a state of jar. How do I know that? Because it bears the kasra on the end. Okay, how about the word qulub? Najm means star, by the way. Qulub means hearts, right? The famous ayah, fi qulubihim maradun. Oh, yeah, ID and R. It's indefinite. How do I know it's indefinite? Because there is a tanween upon the end, and it's in a state of rafa. How do I know that? Because of the dhamma ending. Okay. How about the word Fatima ta? Which state is that in? And also the definiteness. Cool. All right. So it's definite, even though there's no alif lam here. Why is it definite? Because it's a proper name. We know who that individual is. No ambiguity there. So it's definite. And I can tell it's in a state of nasb. Why is that? Because of that fatha ending there. So D and N. Okay. And last one here. as-sayyaratan. What's the definiteness here, guys? There we go. Okay, finally somebody called me out. Guys, it can't be definite. It can't be indefinite because it's technically both, right? It has alif lam and it has a tanween, which is incoherent. Can't have that. That would mean the a car, right? So I just threw that out there to mess with you guys. Okay, check that you're paying attention. Okay, cool. So if it's as-sayyarata, now what would it be? Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so D and N. D and N. Okay, cool. So you guys seem to get that. With that, we can now actually hop into our lesson for today, which is the third property, which is gender, right? So let's go. If anyone's having any issue with font, just let me know and I can zoom in as well. So as mentioned before, there are four properties of an ism, right? Which is definiteness, number, status, and gender. Really easy acronym to remember it is DNSG. Right? If any of you guys are in IT, then you've probably seen DNS before. So that was the easy way for me to remember it, but whatever works for you, right? Whenever you see any ism coming your way, you're going to have to learn to ask these questions. DNSG, you know, what's the definiteness, what's the number, what's the status, and the gender. And you can identify that, then we'll be able to figure out the story of it, right? Every ism is either masculine or feminine, right? The common way of determining if a ism is feminine is whether or not it has a da marbu ta, right? Which is this little symbol here, right? It's also known as the circular ta sometimes. If you guys are reading, you come across it all the time in the Quran. It's the most common sign that a word is feminine, right? So let's take a look at an example. And this will be the case very often with names, right? So Fatima, for example, what does it have on the end? It has a da marbuta. That is a sign of femininity, right? Khadija, same thing. Khadija, right? That da marbuta is going to be the giveaway. And again, this is not only with names. We can also see it with, you know, isms. So if I said asha, ja, ra, right? This means tree, and tree by nature in Arabic is always going to be feminine. Why? Because it has that ta marbuta on the end, right? That's kind of our giveaway sign that's there. Okay, simple enough. Now, let's talk about changing genders. Okay, so certain isms can shift between genders. Okay, and we'll take a look at some examples. Can shift between genders depending on whether or not the ta marbu ta is included or omitted. Right? So let's look at some examples. Okay, so for a word like kabir, which means big, if we want to make it feminine, all we have to do is put a fatha on the last letter and then put a ta marbuta after it. So it goes from being kabir to kabira. Both of them still mean big. However, one is now just feminine and the other is masculine, right? Same with saghir. So saghir here means small, and when it shifts over, it becomes saghira. So this is the feminine. Tawil becomes tawila, right? Becomes feminine. That marbuta is our giveaway. Qabih, if I want to make it feminine, throw a fatha on the end and then put the ta marbuta on the end. So qabih ha, right? Oh, Rafi, yeah. I'm ever scrolling too fast, just let me know, guys, and I can always go back. Maheen, we're going to cover that point next, inshallah. Okay, all right. This will usually apply to adjectives, right? As you can see, this is just descriptive words, right? They're telling us something about something else. What does it actually mean for a tree to be in feminine? It just means that the word itself, its gender is going to remain feminine, right? Some words in Arabic are just by nature feminine. That's just how it is. And we're going to study that coming soon, inshallah. Hadis asked, you always have to pronounce the ending, right? Like tawilatun. Well, only in this class, because this is a grammar class. When people are speaking or they're actually reading without focusing on grammar, they'll just simply read it as tawilah and they'll absorb the ending. Just like at the end of an ayah or when you do waqf in the Quran, when you come to a stop, you absorb the ending. That's normal in speech. Okay. So the application of gender. Why does this really matter? Right? The significance of this, of determining the gender is that the mubtada, remember the subject in a nominal sentence, the subject, and khabar, the information, must match in gender, right? So that's something that we're going to add and update to our understanding of mubtada and khabar. So I'll put some sentences forward. This is some examples. So let's say I have a sentence such as Muhammadun Dhakiyun. In this instance, right, Muhammad is masculine. You guys know that's a dude's name. And Dhakiyun has no symbol of femininity in it. If I wanted to describe somebody else, like if I wanted to say, you know, Fatima, right? Fatima is intelligent. I would say Fatima Dhakiyatun, right? So in this instance, both the mubtada and the khabar are now feminine. And how did I achieve that? I just threw a ta marbuta on the end of dhaki, right? And then it became dhakiyatun. And this would now mean Fatima is intelligent, right? So let's take a look at this example. If I said al-baytu tawilun, right? This would be my mubtada. Why is that? Because it has alif lam, therefore it's definite. It's in a state of rafa. This is my khabar because it's in a state of rafa and it's indefinite. And they both match in gender, right? There's no sign of femininity here, right? So we'd say the house is tall. Now, what if I was talking about a tree? And I want to say the tree is tall. And I'd say ash-shajara, two, right? So the tree, and then we'd have to make our khabar feminine. And we do that how? By adding a ta marbuta on the end. Now this would mean the tree is tall, right? Can you scroll back up for a second? Yeah, no problem. Okay. We'll do one more example. So al-qasaru ba'idun means the palace is far. Both of them are masculine. We have no sign of femininity. But what if I want to talk about a madrasa being far away, right? So like a school. Al-madrasa tu ba'idatun. You make it feminine. And now it would mean the madrasa or the school is far, right? And again, my mubtada is feminine, my khabar is feminine. In this instance, my mubtada is masculine and my khabar is masculine, right? They got to match. Very cool. So what we looked at so far with the ta marbuta is actually only one single case of femininity. In reality, there's actually 8, right? So 8 cases of femininity. So what we should know is that by default, all isms are masculine except for the following 8 cases, right? So if you don't see these 8 signs, then you'll be dealing with something that is masculine. Why will madrasa be feminine? It is feminine because of this ta marbuta on the end, right? All of these are feminine because of that. So I'll highlight that to show its femininity. Femininity. And again, the same is true with all the khabars. Right? Okay, cool. So let's take a look at those 8 cases, right? So this table is highlighted in red because you guys should take some time to really memorize this. We'll be giving it as homework soon, but if you want to get ahead on that, just try and commit these things to memory. Anything that's put forward in red with like a red banner in the notes, try really hard to commit that to memory, okay? So the very first one, right, and you can divide them up, the 8 types, into appearance and meaning that when you see it for 4 of them, you can recognize that it's female. Whereas for other ones, you have to actually know what it means in order to determine that it's going to be female, right? So one of them that we've dealt with a lot today is the ta marbuta, right? The circular ta that appears on the end. So shajaratun, which means a tree, Fatima, tu, which is, a female name. Another example is the alif maqsura. This should be maqsura. Sorry. Is the alif maqsura, which maqsura, which is this alif right here, right? It looks like a ya without any dots on it. Generally, when that occurs, then you're dealing with something that's feminine. So like bushra, husna, and so forth, which means good news. Rafi, don't worry, we'll cover that soon. The next instance is the alif mamduda, which means an alif and a hamza, right? When those come together, so such as like sahra'u or asma'u, right? In this instance, this ending here is going to tell me that is indeed feminine. Now, the interesting one is this concept of a broken plural, right? Now, what do we mean by a broken plural? In Arabic, as well as English, plurals can be either broken or sound, right? In English, all this means is that if it is sound, then it will have an S suffix or attached to the end, an S attached to the end, right? An example of this would be something like, the word papers, right? To go from being singular, which is paper, to plural, all I did was just throw an S on the end. It becomes papers, right? However, words where the structure changes to become plural are known as broken plurals, right? An example of this would be something like, the word leaf, right? The plural of that would be leaves, right? Leaves. What we find is that there's an original word here, which is L-E-A. However, now we have this V-E-S that's added. So the actual structure of the word has changed. Now in Arabic, it's this very similar thing, right? Sound plural. So I'll just give a quick example of a sound plural in Arabic, which is something like this. We have a word like al-muslimun, right? For it to be a sound plural, it'd become muslimuna. See how it just simply has that una ending attached to the end? Because of that, the actual structure of Muslim is still there. Therefore, it is sound, right? It's still intact. We just have something that's been added onto the end. But an example of a broken plural would be something like, for the word rajulun. No, I'll use a different example. For the word, we'll use something that we've already used today. Najamun, right? For the word najamun, its broken plural, right, or its plural form is actually nujumun. in this instance, the word has actually been broken. Something was inserted into it. So because of that, it actually becomes a broken plural, right? Simple concept. So when you see these broken plurals, where the word itself is kind of changed and shifted, it's not just something's been inserted on the end, rather the actual structure is changed, then know that you're dealing with a word that is feminine, right? So for example, we have kitab, which means book. In Arabic, it becomes kutub, right? To mean books. And in this case, it becomes broken. Why? Because we unpackaged it and we removed that alif from it, changed it up, right? So broken plurals. So the next side of this chart is in regards to things that are known through their meaning. So the names of places are inherently going to be feminine, right? So Egypt, Mecca, Medina, Damascus, Pakistan, right? All these places inherently, I don't know, most people here are from like Brampton, right? Brampton, Mississauga, so like Mississauga, however that would be in Arabic. By nature, since it's a place, it's going to be feminine. This one, which is where it gets really interesting, this is a pretty unique case. It's body parts that have pairs, right? So any body part that has a pair associated to it will be feminine, right? So for example, a leg, rijl, it's going to be feminine. For example, your eyes, since there's two of them, when you talk about al-ain, it's going to be feminine. When you talk about the hand, al-yad, it's going to be feminine. Versus when you talk about the mouth, where you only have one, the fem, it will be masculine, or the nose, and it will be just simply masculine, just a single one. So question here. For the broken plural, are they both feminine? Yes, the broken plural will be feminine, right? Okay. Now there's interesting scenarios where this kind of defies anything that we can know, and this is something that you have to just learn through the language itself. There are certain words that, regardless of, a consistent pattern of meaning or regardless of appearance, they're just simply feminine because the Arab said so. So one of the things that we should note about the Arabic language is that before it was articulated and structured into a grammatical study, it was a language that people spoke. So of course, not everything is going to fit into always just a logical sense, right? And there are people who actually tried to do this, and we're going to give you a poem, inshallah ta'ala, that summarizes a lot of the really common ones. But for example, Shams, sun, that's going to be female, just because the Arabs said so. So traditionally, it was handed down as something that is female, right? And then the last one are words that are female only, meaning that they can only apply to a woman. So an example of this would be hamilun, which means pregnant, right? It's not going to happen to a man, regardless of modern discourse. So pregnant would be something that is something that's exclusive to just women. Yeah, somebody's asking, kitab is masculine. Yes, that is true. Kitab is masculine. But when you bring it into its broken plural form, when it's pluralized, it becomes feminine. Why? Because it's a broken plural. Yeah, could you please repeat the feminine body parts? No problem. So when we're talking about body parts, when they will be feminine is when it's a body part being talked about that has a pair associated to it. So for example, my hand, it's a pair. My ears, it's a pair. My eyes, it's a pair, right? Because of that, whenever it's mentioned, it will be feminine. Whether it's mentioned as two or whether it's mentioned as one, it's feminine, right? So just talking about my single hand, it's going to be feminine. Whereas if it's a body part that has no pair, such as my nose or my mouth, in that case, it will be masculine. Hope that's clear. Okay, I'm good now. So nose is masculine, but nostril will be feminine. I assume by that logic, yes. I could double check that for you though. Honestly, I haven't looked at the word nostril, but yeah. Does female only refer to organs that only belong to women? Generally, yes. There is an exception to that, but that's not something we're going to cover right now. Okay. So I'm going to put forward some practice for you guys, and you guys help me out here. Okay. We have the word shajaratin. I want to know three things. I want to know what is its definiteness, what is its gender, and what is its status, right? Okay, good stuff, guys. So it's indefinite. How do I tell that? Because it has a double ending, right? It has the tanween. That's my giveaway, right? ID, it's going to be in a state of jar, or we'll do gender first. It's going to be feminine. How I can tell that is because it has the ta marbuta on the end. It bears that sign. And then again, it says in a state of jar. How do I know that? Because of the kasra ending, right? Endings tell you a lot in Arabic. One of the things you need to focus on a lot. Al-yadu, which means hand. What's it going to be, guys? Definiteness, gender, as well as status. Okay, cool. Yep, so it's going to be definite. I know that because of the alif lam. Its gender is going to be female. Why is that? Because you have two hands, right? It's a body part in pair from our list right up here. Body part in pair. So because of that, it's treated feminine, or it is feminine. And then finally, the state is rafa. I know that by the dhamma ending. Now, guys, how about the word Canada? Canada. Yeah, okay, good stuff. So it's going to be definite. Why? Because it's a name of a place. So it's a thing. Definite, and it's going to be in a state of nasab, which many of you guys got due to the ending. And then finally, it's going to be feminine. Why is it feminine? Because it is the name of a place, right? So due to that, it's feminine. Okay, cool. So let's just talk about one more concept, and we'll conclude with that. The exception. Should be noted that not every word that bears the above signs will be feminine. Rather, in most cases, they are. Like, for example, ta marbuta, that's like 99% of the time, right? In most cases, they are. However, if the word is inherently masculine, then it will be masculine, regardless of the female sign, right? Simple example of this, the name Talha, Talha, right? Talhatun. Talha. In this case, Talha is masculine, even though it has a ta marbuta, because that's a masculine name, right? It's also the same for Hamza, Hamzatun. In this case, it is masculine, even though it has a ta marbuta. This happens a lot with names. Okay, another example would be Isa. See how it has the alif maqsura, or the short alif on the end, right? It's a ya with no dots on it. However, we know this is the name of a prophet, and it is a masculine prophet's name, right? That is a masculine name. And those of you guys who are in the Quest class, there's a really cool etymology breakdown of that. I highly recommend checking that out. And then another example would be something like the word rajulun, right? That means man, right? It means a man. However, when I make it plural, there's no sound plural for it. So it becomes rijalun, right? And this is now a broken plural because I've opened it up and I've inserted something into it that broke its form, as opposed to inserting something on the end. So because of that, now it's a broken plural. So it fits our list. But in this case, since it's inherently masculine, because you're talking about a bunch of dudes, it will be a masculine word, regardless of the sign, right? Cool. All right. Why do you need to put ta marbuta with a masculine name? Because this is the way the name was handed down, right? It's just the way that it was handed down by tradition, and it's the way it will be spelt. Again, what we should know about language is that languages are spoken and they're lived. They're not necessarily methodical by structure. So we impose a lot of the times the structures onto it so that we can learn them. That's why we'll see discrepancies every so often in the rules that we learn. Okay, this section, as usual, is the sentences to master, meaning that if you understand these sentences and the way that they work, then you've gotten what we were supposed to learn today. And if not, take the time to review these and commit these to memory, because their structure will be something that you can build off of for the future, inshallah ta'ala. Brother, is it possible that you can come across a masculine noun with a female ending? Yes, such as these examples that we have seen up here. Okay, so as-sayyaratu jamilatun, right? This is a nominal sentence. How do I know that? Because it begins with an ism, right? That alif lam is our dead giveaway. It's going to be definite, it's in a state of rafa, and it's female. Therefore, it's my mubtada. Now, what do I need to look for in my khabar? I need it to be indefinite. I need it to be in a state of rafa, and I need it to be female. It's got to bear that ta marbuta, because car in Arabic is an inherently female word. So this would mean the car is beautiful, right? Al-anfu tawilun. So anf is the word for nose. And now we're dealing with a body part, and we got to ask ourselves, does it have a pair? It doesn't. So because of that, it's going to be masculine. Whereas if it was like my ears, the udhun, then that would be a different story. This would mean the nose is long. Both are masculine, right? Al-ainu ajibatun, which means the eye is amazing. Now, ajibatun, in this case, it's feminine. It's going to bear that ta marbuta, that descriptive word. It's going to take it because it needs to be feminine. Why is it feminine? Because al-ain, the eye, there's two of them. So it's female, right? So the eye is amazing. Al-asma'u jumlatun, which means the sky is complete. Asma, from one of our signs that we know, it's the alif mamduda, meaning you have an alif followed by a hamza. So in this case, it's going to be female. Therefore, my khabar must be female as well. So al-asma'u jumlatun, which means the sky is complete. Then Misru wasi'atun. Misr, it's the name of a place. Therefore, it's going to be female. It's from our chart, right? Based on the meaning, we know it's going to be female. And then that means our khabar must be female as well. So we throw a ta marbuta on it, becomes Misru wasi'atun. Egypt is far. Al-usra ba'idatun, which means the difficulty is far. One of our signs is present here, so it's female. Therefore, our khabar must bear a femininity as well. We have our alif maqsura here. Yes, Maheen, that's correct. Right, the alif maqsura is one that is a ya without two dots on the end. All right, al-ma'u, so the water. Although this bears no sign of, I guess it has the alif mamduda. Never mind. So the alif mamduda makes it feminine, and then it has the ta marbuta here. And then al-bi'ru amiqatun. So al-bi'ru, this word actually has no sign of the femininity that we learned. It's rather just something that the Arabs have passed down in being feminine, right? And you're going to get used to this through exposure, inshallah ta'ala, which words are inherently feminine. There's not many, right? But well is one of them, right? So amiq means deep, and therefore I have to make it feminine as well to match the mubtada. How do I do that? I throw the ta marbuta on the end, and it becomes al-bi'ru amiqatun. The well is deep. Alhamdulillah. Okay. All right. One of the things I'm going to need you guys to start looking into, inshallah ta'ala, so for this weekend, try to have it set up for Monday, is so that you guys can type in Arabic, right? That's one of the big parts of this course, because we're going to need to actually translate from English to Arabic and Arabic to English, right? We're working on both of those. So please try and set that up on your keyboards. It's not too difficult. You can Google it really quickly. If you need help figuring that out, let me know, and we can get that set up. That's the logos keyboard. Sohib is sharing a link. Just gonna that up. Okay, cool. I don't know if you guys see my screen here, but for those of you sometimes who are struggling with the symbols and where they exist, there's a link here shared by brother Sohib. I'll post it to everyone. And it actually shows you where these letters are, essentially, where they're located. Yeah, okay, slod. You can also buy off of Amazon like a little sheet that can go on your keyboard. I think they're pretty inexpensive, but you could just lay it atop, and it makes it really quick to figure out where the letters are, inshallah. Okay, so please look into that, figuring out the Arabic keyboard, so we can actually start engaging on that end, inshallah ta'ala. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, please feel free. For anyone who has to go, you guys are welcome to check out. Cool. Well, yeah, cool. Yes, Sister Rida, you said that you need to be added to the group. Please feel free to reach out to taqwa.program@gmail.com. I'll let them know that you're trying to reach them. Do you know which specific Arabic keyboard to set up? So on Windows, I personally use the Saudi keyboard. It's just what I'm used to. Wa alaikum salam, wa yakum. How can a name be indefinite? So a name by nature will always be definite because it's proper. We know who the individual is, right? Even though it has a double ending on it sometimes. Okay, my device is dying. Sorry, no problem. The nose is long. Okay.
So I think you mistakenly mentioned earlier that a name can be, or that certain names are indefinite.
Oh, I said that? Oh, my bad. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not true. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Yeah, names aren't going to be indefinite.
Could you please scroll up, sorry, because that wasea,
Mhm.
the sword, next screen, go down.
Oh,
So
go down.
the
Yes.
examples at the very end that you gave, the sentences.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so Misr wasea is a sword and tarmabuta and barida. So both of them mean far.
Ba'ida. Oh,
Barida,
yeah.
I know is
Okay,
far.
no, sorry. This should be, thank you. This should be spacious.
So then shouldn't it be with a scene instead of a sword?
Fast. Wasi'a. It's with a slot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to my understanding. I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure wasi'a, kursiyuhu samawati wal ard. It has the slot in there, right?
Okay. I don't know. I don't don't know the spelling.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Can I re-explain alif maqsura? Oh, in Urdu, it's with a sin. Okay, so perhaps that's in Urdu, but not in Arabic, and I'm not fluent in Urdu, so I apologize. I don't know Urdu at all. Can you re-explain alif maqsura? Sure, no problem. So alif maqsura is going to come on the end of a word, right? And what it is indefinitely is actually just an alif, right? It's appearing as just a ya and with no dots, but it's treated as if it's just an alif. If you translate it, it actually means the alif which is shortened, right? And if you look in the mushafs, there's usually just a dagger that sits atop it to tell you that it's really just an alif in reality, right? So if you see this coming on the end of a word, good chance it's going to be female. Oh, wa alaikum salam. Wa alaikum salam.
Sorry to interrupt again. I'm just looking at Ayatul Kursi and it is wa sin ain.
Wasi'in. Okay, thank you.
Not sad.
That is a mistake on my end, so I will correct that. Jazakallah khair.
Welcome.
Wasi'a. Awesome. Okay, all right. With that, guys, I will dismiss class, inshallah, and we can reconvene tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. What is the email to be added to the ARK group? The email is taqwa.program@gmail.com. Yeah, can we get a description for the female only category? Sure. So when it comes to something being female only, that means that inherently it can only be applied to women, right? So the aspect of being pregnant, that is going to be applied only to women. Hope that is clear. Yeah, Abdurrahman, I will double check that one, inshallah. Okay. All right, guys, with that, I will dismiss, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallahu khairan, and see you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanallah al-azim.